been told that they played the governor's inauguration. They've been around forever. They've been playing longer than most of you have been on this planet. Let's hear it for who, Susie?
Billy and the Showman!
You're right though, Ben. He said go.
He said go.
He said go?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay, everybody, let's have a large round of applause once again for the main stage. These people have been rocking and rolling you all day long. We're Billy and the Showman. We're old school, so let's see if you know any of this. Come on, pop the hip.
I'm William Addison. I only usually say A. I hate my middle name. I'm William Addison Foster, and I was born in Portchester, New York on the 9th of February, 1948. And my parents were Shirley Mae Foster from New York State, and my dad was James Beverly Foster from Austin, Texas. And they met somewhere up here when he was getting out of the service, and they were married. I have an older brother, James, Junie we call him. I have a younger brother, Preston. I have a sister, Kathy, Sheila, and I have a younger brother, Brian. We lived on Regent Street in Portchester for while we were very, very small. I'm almost certain that one of the reasons that I made the change and the switch to Greenwich was because of the school system. So by the time I entered kindergarten, I lived in Byram, Connecticut, and then from Byram we moved to the projects in Chickahominy. My mom contracted polio right after I was born, if I'm not mistaken. So from tiny little kids preschool, she was in, I'm trying to remember the name of the hospital, off of King Street in Portchester. And she had to go through a great deal of therapy. And she ended up coming out with a loss of control of one of her legs. And she had to wear a brace and a cane for the rest of her life. She didn't travel a great deal until later in life when she decided it was time to do so. But growing up in Armstrong Court, a couple of hundred people could attest to the fact that my mother stayed in her kitchen window, and she had a view from the end of the projects we were in of basically a lot of stuff that took place there. And a lot of kids would come to my mom for advice or how to get around getting in trouble with their mom. You know, I just did this, Mrs. Foster, and she kind of smoothed things out for him. And a testament to that was that when my mom died, there were over 2,000 people at her funeral. All the selectmen that had served before her, the police escort for a standard funeral is a motorcycle and a car. We had 2 cars and 3 motorcycles. The people volunteered that were off duty to go ahead and do it. So she was kind of a staple. She was responsible for a couple of small organizations that they did. She always worked at the school for the voting. There was a section of the Greenwich Times called Chickahominy Chatter, which she ended up taking over for a short period of time. And she became involved in the Women's Democratic Party and stuff like that. And so she was very well known. Very well known. My dad worked at Arnold Baker's when it was in Portchester, New York, and when we made the transition to Greenwich, afterwards they built the Arnold Baker's in Greenwich. So he didn't even have to get in his car, really. He did, but all he had to do was just walk down and walk through the fence and go to work. But yeah, things cost a lot of money for 5 kids and a working dad. And I can remember one day he lost his paycheck, and it was just unbelievable panic for the family. I can remember another day that we were in the movie theater in Portchester, and I found a check on the floor. And this was in the 50s. A check on the floor, and it was for around $200. And it had a corporation name on the top of it. And I'm sitting with all of my friends and everybody, oh, Jesus Christ, man, you know how much popcorn and shit we could buy, and you could get those sneakers you wanted, that baseball glove and everything else. All I could hear in the back of the head was the story of when my father lost his paycheck. So I shouldn't say made the mistake. I made the decision to take the check to the manager of the movie theater and give him the check and say, this looks as though it's a paycheck for someone's family. He made the big mistake of stopping the movie in the theater to say this honest young man, who I got pelted by every food that they had by all the kids in the audience and punched out by my friends on the way home the whole time. But this young man found a paycheck. It's obviously someone's paycheck, and he's brought it up to it. He brought it up. And it turned out to be a guy that had a wife and a little baby, and it was his paycheck, and it would have hurt him. One of the worst things he did in front of everyone was give me a quarter for a reward on a $200 check. I would have just assumed he gave me absolutely nothing. I just gave more fuel to the guys on the way home to call me stupid and beat on me and everything, you know. Dad was a frustrated saxophone player. He loved jazz, so we grew up listening to Sarah Vaughan and all the big band sounds and singers, Sinatra, and you know, all these really great people. And I listened to them. And the only actual singing I tried to apply to any period of time when I was really little, at first, was at school in the choir. But again, the student and the person that I was always a little too for everyone else, so that didn't last long. But I do remember listening to the music now when the radio stations, especially in the 50s, like Cousin Brucey and DJs like that began to play specifically rock and roll, separated it from pop music and everything else just to play rock and roll. It became a thing and I started to listen to it. What came from the big band sound and the Mills Brothers and people like that initially were bands that sang in groups like the Mills Brothers with the harmonies, but the music had changed. And I was attracted to the harmonies and what became in the 50s the doo-wop era. So I would listen to all of that. And I remember a conversation with my father, because, you know, he plays jazz records all the time. We'd be sitting there, and it's time for us to go out. We're little, but, you know, a record comes out on the charts, 45. I think my first 45 record was Twist and Shout by the Isley Brothers. I think it's the first 45 I ever bought. But before that was mostly all doo-wops. And I remember my father listening to the two of the 45s I got, and very sincerely, and he meant it, and he wasn't trying to be facetious or angry or anything. He just knew that jazz was the culmination of classical music, other type people's walks of life, the things that they did, the stories that were told in the jazz songs. So to him, that was the base of music. So when I started to listen to rock and roll, he said to me very seriously, you know, it's just a fad. It's not going to last. So I said, well, I don't think so, Dad, because you had your group of people and, you know, I mean, thousands followed Sinatra around and what's his name that did the Cab Calloway, and all these other people had giant audiences. Rock and roll's getting the same type of thing. So it may not be as big, but it's definitely going to last. So he called me up, we went over, and he asked if I wanted to try to be the singer. I said yes, and we went through a couple of songs, he played a couple of chords. His dad was a jazz guitar player, teacher, and he taught a lot of guitar. So his dad heard me singing, and his dad came down and helped Billy with a couple of songs that we were learning so he could put the chords in. His mom's favorite song was "Hey There, Georgie Girl," and she came downstairs and she really liked the way I sang, but she said, "Do you know Georgie Girl?" And I went, "Yeah, I do," but they didn't know it. So Billy learned how to play it, and when we were down there one day, he goes, "Ma, come down here a second." We did the whole song for her. So then Dottie was his mom. Then I fell in love with Dottie, and we got along. So we started a small unit, and we got pretty popular. We got to play at, by the time we were in the high school thing, we were playing all the major dances. We played here in Darien. There was a place called the Ice Cream Parlor. It was very popular. And we played the Ice Cream Parlor. We played every high school dance. You name them, they had a dance. We played some of their dances. Stanford was our biggest fan base. We played everything in Stanford. Fish Church, Women's Club, all these other places would always have these weekend things for teenagers. In those days, which they should actually have now. People would stop doing this and actually go someplace and talk to each other. But there were so many places to go on the weekends, and we started to play all of these places. And we got pretty popular with it. We got to play at the Barnum Festival with the Dave Clark Five. And Jack Carter, really popular comedian at the time, was the comedian host of the show. So it was really cool. They gave us, a trailer like you live in, and you park, and not a drivable one, but a good sized trailer that you tow behind you. So we're down there, and we're playing all this stuff and having a good time. And Dave Clark comes. The bad thing was, we got a standing ovation. In those days, I used to dance a lot. Now getting off the couch is hard. But I used to dance quite a bit, and we'd do the James Brown stuff, but I was also into gymnastics. So I think I either started or ended the first portion of our show with a backflip off the stage into a split, which made the audience go, "Yeah," right. So we finished, and when we finished, with no exaggeration, we got a standing ovation, and we're saying we've never played on a venue this large. The people love us. Dave Clark is here. We were in heaven. This is all so great. What could go wrong? This is beautiful. This is what it's all about. And then there was that funny part that I'd love to make a movie about. We all go out to the trailer now. But when we got through, we got a standing ovation, and then they demanded an encore, one more. And the Barnum Festival people said, "Get you guys back on stage." So usually only the top name acts get an encore. So you guys must be out there. I said, "Yeah." We went out, we did an encore. They loved the encore. They even asked for another encore, but they couldn't do it. They had to go on with the show. We're in seventh heaven. Everything was just so good, Then Dave Clark goes out, and Dave Clark plays, and I love the Dave Clark Five. How my pieces, bits, and I dug their music. Well, it turns out that Dave Clark had a set list. But the only thing that was published from his people to the venue was, "We don't want you to do any of Dave Clark's songs." And we didn't. We did R&B songs. Dave Clark did a lot of the British. Now, he'd do other people's songs, but no one gave us a set list of exactly what he had to play. Well, we did Midnight Hour and some other song by the Isley Brothers, and they were on his list. So we finished playing, and we're in the trailer, and the funny thing was, all teenage girls are outside. Now, they had a little white picket fence only about this big, just to keep people back from the trailer itself. And there are a bunch of state troopers all along the area where the people walked and everything else, make sure there was no trouble. And they kept one real close to where the Dave Clark Five's trailer and our trailer was. We had trailers next door to each other. So the funny thing was, now remember, we never did anything big. This is cool. Every time, I just got a joke out of it. Every time we opened the door to the trailer, the girls would go, "Ah!" Ah! He closed the door. So we were having so much fun with that. We were enjoying everything. After a given period of time, Billy goes outside and he doesn't come back. And I kept telling everybody, before we go, all right, I walked up to Jack Carter and shook his hand. Before we go, I want to meet the Dave Clark Five. I go outside, and again, every time you open the door, the girls scream. And I asked the state trooper out there, where's the guy that came out? He goes, oh, he's in the other trailer. I go, oh, cool. This is my chance to meet Dave Clark. I'm going in. I go over and I knock on the door. This big British guy in a turtleneck sweater and a jacket opens the door. Can I help you? I said, yeah. I said, that's my guitar player in there, and I'd like to meet Dave Clark. Well, I don't think you and Dave Clark would be getting along tonight. What's the problem? I look inside, and there's Billy sitting in a chair, and Dave Clark is going like this. Now, remember, I have a temper. And I'm going, what's going on? He goes, I think you should go back to your trailer. I go, hold on a second. Shove him to the side, open the door, walk in, and I hear Dave Clark's words, and I hear Billy say, no one gave us a list of your songs. We don't play your music, and they only told us don't play Dave Clark's music. So I stand there, and I'm listening, and Dave Clark starts to yell, and I have a real bad temper and a very loud mouth. And I just yelled, whoa! And everybody turned, who's this? And he goes, he's the singer in my band. I go, I don't understand the problem here. We don't do your music. They didn't give us a list of your music. Why are you upset that we did 2 songs? Are you upset because we got a standing ovation and a possible second one and all you got was a round of applause? When you came on for your encore, it was a staged encore. You guys walked off, all they did was clap and say yeah, and you came back on. They were cheering and stomping for us. So I told Billy, get out of the chair. You don't have to listen to this idiot. I said, I thought you guys were like really cool Dave Clark. You're a bunch of morons. And, no, let's go. So we get to walk out the door, and then the bouncer, wherever this guy was in the turtleneck sweater, decided he didn't like my mouth and what I had to say, and he starts to get in my way. Now, there's 3 little steps coming down out of the trailer. He starts to get in my way to block us because, Dave Clark wanted to say something else, and I told him, get the hell out of the way. And he had his hand on the door, and the door was open. So I said, I'm not going to tell you again, get out of the way. And he said something else, and boom, and I shoved him real hard. And so he came down the steps. But again, you got to add that, as soon as the door opened, the girl screaming. That part just kept cracking me up. So we get outside, and him and I are throwing words back and forth. The guy's twice my size, and I'm yelling at him. And the girls, the whole time, are all just screaming, ah! And the state trooper looks over and sees us and figures there's something going on between us. So he comes over to break it up between us and all this other jazz. The Levitt Pavilion was fun. We did it for the first time last year. We got on the chart, and they really, really liked us, so they demanded that we come back. And what we did last year was, as we were setting up, these 2, remember I told you about the ice cream parlor? These 2 ladies approached me. Now, I'm about to turn 70, so they have to be up there with me. They approached me, and they said, okay. They approached me, and they said, are you really Billy and the Showman from the 60s? I said, yes, we are. There's only 2 originals from the 60s, but other guys have been in the band for 30 years, 28 years. Yeah, we're Billy and the Showman. She goes, we used to come to your dances, and one of the things that we could never, ever forget was that in the 60s, you guys had go-go dancers. And I said, yeah, actually, I had to go meet the fathers of these go-go dancers and promise them that their daughters would be okay. But at the ice cream parlor here in Darien, they presented their own go-go. They did a thing like the TV. They put the little bird cage up with the string coming down, and they'd have girls dancing in there. So they said, the woman said, yeah, me and my girlfriends, we used to come to the dance, and we always wanted to be a go-go dancer for the Showman. So I said, well, how many girls did you come with? She goes, there's like 5 of us, and all of us really used to come to your dance. First of all, we couldn't believe it was, they said Billy and the Showman. We went, they got grandkids now. Can't be. So they just basically showed up to see who it was going to be. And then they found out that it was really us. And so I said, well, go get your girlfriends. She goes, what do you mean? I said, well, you couldn't dance go-go with us now, but huge stage at the Levitt. She goes, you're kidding. So she ran back. She got her 5 girlfriends. And I told the crowd, I said, you know, this lady said that she used to love to come dance with Billy and the Showman. We had go-go dancers, so here's her opportunity to dance. The crowd went nuts. They got up. They were doing the jerk and the twist and all the dances from the 60s, which encouraged a bunch of other ladies that were a little less than them, which I put in the category of their daughters because they were in their 40s and stuff, and they jumped up on the other side of the stage. We did it. So when we played there this year, we had even a bigger crowd. And at the end of the night, I said, geez, we didn't have anybody on the stage yet. Do you guys want? The stage was packed. I mean, they just came up and they were dancing with us for the last 3 or 4 songs. Yeah, it was our most fun gig this year. Big rainbow at the end because it rained and everything. It was just a beautiful, beautiful gig. My present wife is from Vienna, Austria. She's 18 years younger than I am. And we met her because we were recording in the studio in Stanford. Everybody knows this story. Recording in the studio in Stanford to do a commercial. And it had been going so long and they were bringing stuff out and adding stuff in, and I got ticked off and said, well, that's it, I'm done. And they said, oh, Bill, no, look, if you come back tomorrow, we have to pay for another entire day. Let's finish what we have today, and then all we have is the, the editing afterwards, So I said, oh, there's nothing to drink in here, it's just, So we all went to Rory's, which I hear is Darien thing. The Donahue family owned it, and we played it. Chris Donahue's up there. That's another bunch of stories. Those guys, they're a great family. And there was a Rory's in Stanford. We went to Rory's. They're getting the pictures and stuff ready. I knew the bartender and everybody else. And here is this girl sitting there with short marine cut type blonde hair and round glasses, and I made the comment, who's the Swedish babe? And he goes, she's not Swedish, she's Austrian. Everyone's talking and having fun, and she's over her drink very quietly. I asked why. He said she just had to fire someone that she liked very much and she's very upset. So I said, what's her name? He said, it's Irene, but the German pronunciation is Arena, and she prefers that. So I said, okay. Next week we go back in the studio, we finish up that other stuff, and when we get out, Connecticut's closed, so we go down to Portchester, to a bar that I not only bounced at, I babysat the 2 guys that owned it. Right? They grew up in Armstrong Court with me. But it was pretty popular at the time. So we go down to the bar. When I walk in the door, who's sitting in the middle of the bar laughing and joking but Elena, right? So I had my jacket on, and it says Billy and the Showman on the back of it. And I walked up to her, and remember, she has no idea who I am. And I walked up to her and I said, oh, Elena, it is so good to see you again. Look, I'm really sorry you were so upset last week after having to fire your friend, but I see that you're back to normal again. It's really good. Hey, great to see you. Can I put my coat on the back of your chair? See you later. And I walked in the back room. So I know everybody there. I bounced there, the singers, I know the owners, I know everybody else. So about 5 minutes later, she comes in the back room with her drink in her hand. She goes, I don't know you. You don't remember me from Rory's? So while I'm trying to bullshit her into thinking that she really knew me, everybody would pop their head in the back and go, Billy, when are you playing next? So she looks at me and she goes, what are you, a basketball player? Oh, I'm black, so I got to play. Do I look like I'm tall enough to play basketball? She goes, well, what are you? I said, I'm a singer. She goes, you're a singer? I go, yes. So I invited her to come to our next gig, which was again here in Darien, right on the Post Road. I'm trying to remember what the name of it was. It's up there on the Post Road. And she came, and because she didn't really know me, she brought 2 people that were friends of hers from other bars that she thought would kind of protect her, because she had no idea what she was walking into. Well, when they walk in the door, she walks in with one of my good friends that bounces at CD's Cafe. It's a good friend of mine, and another one, a guy I grew up with, a dad. This guy's known me since I was 2 years old. And they go, Billy's the one you were worried about? I go, yeah, well, it's a good thing you called us, but he's okay, right? So we're singing and everything, and she never heard the band. She actually really kind of fell in love with the band, so now she's at least in a position to want to really talk to me as a person. And then I embarrassed the living heck out of her. I got up and announced I was going to sing the song When a Man Loves a Woman by Percy Sledge, and I told the audience, I go, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to dedicate this next song to my new girlfriend down there. She is so good in bed, she's just all night long. She doesn't, and she's trying to hide under the bar as I'm saying this, so I took the wireless microphone from the stage, and I actually went down in the audience, and I was saying, "When a man," and I'm singing it to her while she's hiding under the stage. It was absolutely hilarious. So then I asked her to marry me 3 times, and she told me maybe. And then I ended up going to Vienna 3 times to be with her. And the last time I was in Vienna, she said yes. So then we came back, and we were married in my mother's living room in the projects. We made a pact with a number of guys years ago. It wasn't a pact, but it was a thing. And none of us, not one of us, ever thought that we'd make it to the age of 30. We did some really crazy stuff. And as I got older, like everybody knows, I know they're going to try something. That when I turned 70, I don't want to make a big deal of it. Say, "Happy birthday, buy me a drink." Don't get me pissed off and try to make a big deal out of it. They did it when I turned 60 down in Stanford. Within 48 hours, they got on the internet and they put all this stuff. You can't tell Billy, you can't tell Billy, you can't tell Billy. The club holds 400 people, 600 people showed up. The fire department had to throw people out. So, no, for my age now, the only thing that I tell people now is, and now I have my grandkids who they're just the coolest. I think I did okay in the sense that I just always wanted to make sure that it meant something that I was here. That's all. That's all.
Thank you.